On the show today, my guest is Amy Worrall. Amy is a person that has an inspiring story and it can inspire anyone to start taking that first step. Going from literally not being able to physically run to completing a marathon. But not only that, running it on a broken foot. Time and time again, Amy has been given setbacks when it comes to her fitness and health, but she keeps on pushing forward to getting and challenging herself. Hope you enjoyed the show. I truly enjoyed listening to Amy's story. The big thing I say is like, you gotta win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed.
What you truly value.
No right way, there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Stephen Kinsler Podcast. My guest today is Amy Worrall.
Worrall?
Worrall.
Worrall.
Yeah. Amy has graciously decided to come on my show, and we're going to talk about her fitness journey. And she's done some kind of pretty impressive feats of fitness, and she's had her own struggles doing that. So firstly, Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the invite.
Cool. So we've kind of connected through a very familiar friend, like a lot of people, is Paul. You're in the inner circle. I'm in the alliance. The inner circle is the female version. I'm in the alliance, which is the male version. Paul likes to keep her separate, except for it's when it's on quarterly. So getting into it, right? So when you've ran the New York Marathon, which is a very kind of tough marathon to do, but go back a little bit further. Like where was your fitness before you made the decision to do a marathon?
Oh God, it was nowhere. It was nowhere. I never had fitness. I was the least likely person to run a marathon ever. And that's a bit of a theme for me. I always do things that I'm the least likely person to ever do. So I had struggled for years, way back to teenage years. You know, I could never find a sport I was good at, not very coordinated. Found out later that I probably have ADHD. My daughters have autism. None of us are coordinated. So any kind of hand-eye coordination stuff, which just didn't go well for me at all. Yeah. I was always heavy. I was always tall, big boned, they used to call it back in the 80s and 90s. So cross country and things, hated it, absolutely hated it. When I qualified, I'm a solicitor. When I qualified, I got a job in the city centre in Manchester here. Joined the gym on the scheme, had a PT, and I would do that, and I would do the PT, and I would do 2 more sessions a week, because he basically said to me, if you don't do the 2 sessions in between, Amy, you will find the session with me so hard that you won't be able to cope. So fear had me in the gym 3 times a week, but that was really it. And he used to try and get me to run, and one of the things was he was trying all different kind of cardio things to get my heart rate up, and nothing was really working, which is bizarre because I was, not particularly fit until we tried running. And he got me on a treadmill, and I'm like, oh, I hate this. He said, yeah, but it's working, Amy. And so September, 2006, maybe 5, 6. I entered a Race for Life, went to Birmingham, ran my first 5K, and was really delighted. And then 2 days later, I got signed off on the sick for 5 months. I had depression, overwhelm, burnout. I think now I know it was burnout. And I just lay in bed for days, didn't do anything, cancelled. I wasn't earning, just cancelled the PT, just didn't do anything at all. And during kind of that recovery, I got together with my now husband, second husband, Mr. Worrall, and he was dead fit. He'd always been fit. I've known him since he was 15 and I was 12. I used to live across the road from him, and he just was just football all day long, tennis, whatever. He would be out from morning till night, 5-a-side football, Sunday morning football league, all of that kind of stuff. And there's me, couldn't do anything at all. I thought, I'm going to have to do something here. So we entered the 10K together, and that was painful. Didn't really train for it. Entered a 10K the next year, still didn't train for it. I thought, you're never going to get the hang of this, Amy, unless you do something you have to train for. because you keep entering these races and you're just not doing the work.
And what do you
So
think it was? Was like you just weren't interested in the training, or was it just that you weren't given the right kind of coaching?
I always had the safety blanket of you'll be able to do it, you'll be able to walk
Yeah.
it, you'll be able to do it. So I never prioritized the work I had to put in to do it. And so I always had the ambition, wouldn't it be amazing? So I entered a 10K with my brother once, and my only priority was not to be the last person. And you know what
Yeah.
happens at the back of if you're a slow runner like me, what happens is the back of the pack starts to form, and you kind of end up chatting on your breathing breaks and things like that. And I was running, met these two girls on this race, and I thought, I'm not being the last one. And I did a sprint finish and burned them off just so I wasn't the last one, which was awful of me. I shouldn't admit it really. But, I was just so fixated on not being the last one. I was all right being near the back. I didn't mind that. But I just didn't want to be the last one. And because the thought of being the last person almost, it took me back to those really uncomfortable PE lessons, cross country, where like, oh, we're all waiting for you, Amy, where have you been? And just really reinforcing to me how bad I was at it, at sport. And so I just didn't like those feelings. Anyway, Mark and I said to Mark, do you know what, Mark, I'd love to run a marathon. I watched the London Marathon when I was 17 and said I just would love to do that in the next 10 years. 27 came and went. I'm 30 by this point. And I said to Mark, do you know what, Mark, if I go and run the New York Marathon, can we get married in New York after it? Can we stay in New York for a couple of days and get married in New York? He's like, yes, let's do that. But it's really fit husband. He's cycling 10 miles a day every day. He can run with a drop of a hat, any race you put him in, do amazing. Never liked him really, but do. And then there's me, right, desperately trying to keep up, desperately on every diet that's going. I've done them all. And I said to him, right, well, so we'll do that. And then 2 months later, we got pregnant with our first daughter. So that paid to that plan. And we had Charlie, and I ballooned, as you do. I always remember being pregnant was the first time that I was ever happy with my body, which is a really strange thing to say, but I felt that there was no judgment about my size because I was pregnant. I had the alibi of being pregnant.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know if you've spoken to women about this before, or you've heard women say about this before, the dread when you're overweight is someone coming to you going, oh, when's it due? And that's happened to me many times. And to be able to say September was just amazing. To be able to walk in going, I don't have to be scared of that question anymore because I've got it, So I loved being pregnant, put loads of weight on. I had Charlie, and there I was, maternity leave, new baby, didn't really know what I was doing because you never do with your first one.
Jesus, no. It doesn't matter what you read. You're literally first time. We had our first one, and my wife is she was a nanny. She looked after kids for years, babies, newborns, the whole shebang. Nieces, nephews, our first one, everything out the window.
Because you don't want to get it wrong.
Which you get wrong. Because no matter what you're doing, someone will tell you to do it differently, and this is what you should be doing, and are you not eating down like this, and you're swaddling them wrong, and you're like, it's just a bombardment of information. You're like, just let us figure it out. I think that's a tough element of it, especially your first one.
I terrorized myself with, I've got to get this right. I can't be that mum. And I had a really hard time with it. I'm a bit, as I say, I think I might have ADHD, so I'm a bit impulsive. And so just one day I came home and I said to Mark, listen, Mark, we wanted to get married in New York. If let's go anyway and get married. We went to New York the time we were planning to go to New York to get married. But obviously I didn't run the marathon. So we goes to New York, we gets married, and we gets married the weekend after marathon weekend. So we weren't there for the marathon, but we were there the weekend after. But there was signs still everywhere and things like that. I'm like, I so want to do this. I don't want to not do it.
Yeah.
And so a couple of years went by, and I just said to Mark, Mark, I think I'm going to enter the New York Marathon. He said, what? I said, yeah, I think I'm going to enter it, the New York Marathon. And he said, but you've not been running. You're not running at all. I went, okay, well, I've got 13 months. I had 13 months. So it was in the October before. 13 months to train. And I thought, how am I going to do this? So I had Ken, the PT, still hanging around in the background, off and on, going to PT. And I thought, well, I'm just going to have to start somewhere. So I got a book, literally got a book. I did Couch to 5K off, downloaded it, Couch to 5K. Then I did Couch to 10K. Then I did Couch to half the marathon. And then eventually I got this, train yourself to run a marathon, but 16-week program. One thing about me, so I specialize in compliance, doing whatever the book says is what I do. And so I was really good with that. I was really, really good. Whatever session it told me to do, I did it. I was absolutely committed to doing it. So my first session, I remember telling the lady that I worked with, Fiona, I said, I'm going to train for this marathon. She's like, how far can you run? I said, well, I'm doing Couch to 5K. So the first session is run one, walk one. So 1 minute is how far I can run so far. And she's like, Amy, how are you going to run a marathon? I don't know, but I'll let you know when we get there. So I'm training.
That's exactly how you learn to run. Yeah. I trained a lot of people to run the first. I'll give you an example. Is I had a girl who was a very good swimmer. And they couldn't run, literally couldn't run. And we started with 30 seconds on, 2 minutes off. And then we just kept adding and taking away. And I've said this on the show before. I've actually had her on the show. She swam from Northern Ireland to Scotland unassisted. Wow. 17 hours of swimming. From a girl that couldn't physically run more than 30 seconds without literally keeling over to running her first 20 minutes to completing 2 marathons, 2 full Ironmans, and then she's done all sorts of swimming challenges as well. But again, it was a girl that would have struggled with her food over the years and just all of it. And it's that kind of thing where people say, well, how are you going to do it? And you just said it's like I ran for a minute and I walked for a minute. And that is, people think, oh, I'm not nowhere near. But if you never start, you're never going to get there. And I think because I've witnessed it personally with my clients, and I condemned runners for years. I was like, running is stupid. If you run, you're stupid. And then I ended up running, but I remember running I think at 10 minutes nearly knocked me out. And I was like, you're not as fit as you think you are. So let's build that on it. And I think what you just said there is like running a minute, that's how you start.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, I know that thing. I need to get fit to run the marathon. I said, no, you need to start running to run a marathon.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We get this up. Exactly. Yeah.
You absolutely do. And for me, what happened was I carried that principle of just a little bit more all the way along. So when I'd done the 5K, I'd done the 10K, I said, right, I need to embark on half a marathon. Never tried that before. I'd obviously tried 5Ks and 10Ks and wussed out of them. I never DNF'd. I always finished them. I'd just be at the back, right? So I remember I took my dad to Blackpool. It was Valentine's Day. And I said to my dad, listen, Dad, I want to walk a marathon before I start trying to run one. I want to know that I've got it in my legs, that I can actually do it. So we drove to Blackpool. It was Valentine's Day. It was a nice sunny day. We parked in Lytham St Hans, which is the town just before Blackpool, and we walked all the way up the front in Blackpool till you got to Fleetwood, which was half a marathon, and then we turned around and walked back. Now, my dad is a long distance runner. Walker. He never ran, but he's always been a long distance walker. And so we set off with a packed lunch. Okay, I thought we'll get drinks on the way and stuff like that. And we walked there and we're doing quite well. I think I get a blister at maybe 6 miles or something. Stop, put a plaster on. We had some sandwiches and ice cream and turn round. Oh, this isn't as bad as we thought, right? turn around. We're getting up to, and this is important for marathon running, we're getting up to the kind of 20-mile mark.
Yeah.
And we both start kind of hallucinating. So we're just coming back into Blackpool. And have you ever seen those? I can't remember what it's called. There's, all the swallows when they make the shapes in the sky.
Yes. Yes.
Do you know? There's a word for it, isn't there? We saw that off the top of the North Pier, and we're like, "Can you see that?" That's like, are we just imagining that? And what I know now, which I didn't know then, was we hadn't fueled properly.
Yes.
We hadn't taken on enough fuel, carbs, no carb gels, not enough water even. And so we were just dehydrated. By the time we finished, so when we got back to the car, we'd done 26 miles. I was shaking. My dad, I don't know why I'm laughing, but I was shaking. I was in such a state. My dad had to drive home. He had heated seats in his car, and I'm just shivering like this all the way home. I gets home, comes into the house. Poor Mark has made me a Valentine's dinner from M&S. The kids were little, we had no money, and he was like, that was Valentine's Day, 2 for 20 quid or whatever. And I walked in and just got a quilt and lay on the sofa shaking. He's like, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "Is this what's doing a marathon's going to do to you? You better forget it now, And I realised a lot later on that I was just dehydrated. But what I always knew then, every run after that, was that I could walk it if I had to. Yes. And that was what got me there. So at this point, I could run, walk, a decent 10K-ish. And I'm starting on my marathon journey now. And so what I did was I went right back to 4 miles. I think the first week on the 16-week plan was 4 miles. So I did 4 miles. And what I did a deal with myself. 2 things that I learned about long distance running that really helped me get out the door. The first one was, it's awful for the first mile. Just deal with it. It is going to be awful. Whatever you think, it's going to be awful for the first mile, but it improves after that. That's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was breathing, was calming myself down, especially in that first mile, to really trying to get the rhythm of breathing properly in and out. Because once I got past half an hour of running, I could run all day. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't, but I could keep doing it. I could do the distance. So every week when your mileage is going up, I did this deal with myself. You have to run the whole of the time to match last week's run. You can walk the last mile if you like, because you've never done that before. And that's how I got up and up and up and up. And so when you do marathons, you've got to generally go up to kind of 20 miles. You never do the full distance normally when you're training for a marathon. You're up to 20 miles or maybe 22, and then you taper down until race day for the last 3 weeks. So it gets to the 20-mile mark week, and it's raining. I'm supposed to do it on a Sunday. I couldn't do it on the Sunday. I can't remember why, but there was some reason I couldn't do it on the Sunday. So I took the Tuesday off to go and run. Now, most of my long runs I've been doing in Blackpool along the front. So there was no crossings, nothing to interrupt me, and I could just get that continual motion. But I had to run around Manchester to take one of my kind of older routes up through kind of the really rough bits of Manchester, if I'm honest. On a Tuesday, bouncing down, I had to borrow a waterproof. Another key thing I learned, or maybe it's just me, but I was quite not superstitious, probably the wrong word. I was very committed to having the same trainers, the same socks, the same pants, the same vest. I trained the whole time and then ran the marathon. So sometimes when you do, like I was raising money for the NSPCC and they sent me a race vest. I'm like, well, I need 2 because I need one to train in. So I know what I'm wearing. This particular day I went out with a waterproof on that I hadn't worn before because it was biblical, the weather. Yeah. And I went off a route that I'd done before, but it was raining, couldn't see properly, and I landed funny on my foot. I was 10, 12 miles into my 20 miles, 8 miles away from home. I thought, oh, that's a bit funny. And it just felt like I'd tied my shoelaces too tight and it was just sore. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that's a bit odd. And I ended up having to actually walk most of the way home because it was a bit sore. I remember and I got to a place in Manchester, and I suppose this kind of tells you a little bit about my mindset. I got to a place in Manchester and I knew there was a shortcut to get home. but I knew I was having to do the 20 miles. So I didn't take the shortcut. I took the route. I stuck to the route, did the thing, didn't take the shortcut, got home. Absolute agony I was in by the time I got home. The next morning, couldn't put my foot on it. Thought, what am I going to do? I've got 4 weeks till I'm flying to New York to do this marathon, and I can't put my foot down. What's the matter? I thought, oh, well, just rest it. So then the Sunday comes round the next week to do the last long run, 22 miles. I'm going to Blackpool. I'm back on my normal turf, back on the paths that I know. And I just voltaroled it. Don't take my advice, anybody, but I voltaroled away. I went, come on, let's put some Voltarol in it. You can get through it. Up the cola bottle intake, the sweets intake, the Haribo to get me through it. Did the 22 miles. It was all right. It was a bit tender, but it was okay. I thought, thank goodness for that. I've done it all now. Just have to taper. So because I tapered, brilliant. I'm rested, not very heavy mileage. I mean, I say that now. I mean, I can't run a minute again now, but, a 15-mile taper, I was like, oh, this is easy. So I set off on the marathon, got to New York, so excited, got the coach, 5 o'clock in the morning, got to Staten Island, getting ready for this race. It was freezing. So I'd been training all summer, obviously, in 3/4 length pants and a vest. Suddenly I'm in 12 degrees New York, November, autumn. I'm like, what were you thinking, Amy? What were you thinking? I was there in this vest, freezing to death. And I set off. I ran my fastest 10K ever. Very common for people to set off, especially in the first marathons, too quick. So I ran my first. I thought, this is brilliant. I was like I was floating compared to all of that taper. I just thought I was just flying. I was so happy. 6 miles. Well, just after the 10K, the pain came back in my foot. I was like, oh no, what is this? And I ran a bit more, pain again, ran a bit more, pain again. And what was going through my head was, well, you're here now, Amy, and it's 26 miles to get back, so you're just going to have to carry on. Or you're getting on the sweeper bus, but you're just going to have to tough it out. At 20 miles, I remember ringing my dad saying, can I walk now? Because it's so sore, I can't run. I mean, he's in England. I'm ringing him from the route going, Daddy, it's so sore, can I stop? And there was never at any point did I consider a DNF. I thought, listen, if I can't do anything for the rest of the week, at least I'll have done it. I've worked so hard to get here. I'm going to do it. So in the end, I did it. It was 6:29:31, I think. It was getting dark by the time I finished. I did see the sweeper bus a few times. I cried. I literally cried when I did it, because when I got past. So when you finish the New York Marathon, there's about a half a mile walk until you finish, till you find people, till people are waiting for you. So you go past the finish and you've got this big long walk. I was just bawling, absolutely bawling, because I just don't think I knew that I could have walked it. What I didn't know is that I could get through something that was that painful and still do it anyway. And I found out in the end that I'd fractured a metatarsal on the Tuesday run, and that was what the problem was later on when I got some physio. So I ran it with a broken foot that I didn't know was broken, probably shouldn't have done, but I did it. And it taught me such a lot about head down, push forward. As long as you're not doing yourself too much damage, just keep going. And it taught me gave me the confidence to think, well, one time you thought you couldn't do that, so why do you think you can't do this?
I think that's a really good way to look at things, especially like if you hadn't known it was broken, you would have had the best excuse to not do it. But not knowing, I suppose that like I always say this uninformed optimism. So you didn't know there was a serious problem in your foot, and it got better. It got well enough for you to go and do the marathon, and then you were able to complete it. But I like the idea, and this is something that I like to do each year, is I like to do something that is so challenging that's going to require your mental strength to kick in. Because the physical body, it will do what it has to do in the end. It's that constant battle between you and your brain, and just kind of you can feel so much. You can get rid of all this pain. You go stop. and something in your brain goes, no, let's keep going. And I think for your first marathon, running it on a broken foot uh, is definitely, that's like a David Goggins style story. You know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah, run on broken feet, and that's like that in itself is something that is probably more than 99% of the population of the planet will do. You know what I mean? Like you just kept hammering away, which is again inspirational to for people like, oh, people run marathons all the time. Not people that don't run marathons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like you don't, you're not, as you say, you're not an avid runner. You're not big into running, but it was something you set your mind to, and you went after it, and you ended up completing it with a broken foot, which I'll always keep mentioning. And like from Amy running a minute on, minute off, Amy completing the marathon. How do you think you grew as a person, or did you even notice much of a difference, or was it just something that you did?
Oh yeah, definitely. I learned to push myself out of my comfort zone. This is why I'm saying I had to pick something that I was scared of, genuinely scared of, and it's something that in our coaching we have with Paul, he talks about all the time. If you're not scared of it, your goal is too easy. And this was me, way back years and years ago, when I just decided that I'm scared of it. I literally thought I could die. I was 15 stone, I think, when I started training for that. And I really enjoyed carb loading, so I didn't lose a huge amount of weight. But I just taught myself that you can't let a fear of doing it stop you doing anything anymore.
Yeah.
And I had lived a life where I'd had quite a lot of fear before then. My mum, bless her, she's died now, but she had bipolar. So I had a very difficult childhood with a parent with bipolar, and she was a single parent for quite a lot of that as well. And so it was difficult for me. And sometimes, I didn't dare to hope I could do things. I didn't have that support. I didn't have anyone around me going, you can do this, because just there was too much other stuff going on. And then I was in not a great relationship. My first marriage was not great. It was emotionally abusive, and my confidence was really knocked. And so in doing this thing that I really admired in Mark, his ability to commit to fitness, to get everything he got out of it that I'd never been able to do, so that we could share that. We could go running together, and we could do. I could never be able to keep up with him. Never would be able to. But we'd at least be able to have this reference. I also had a small child. I wanted to be a role model for her, and
Yes.
and still. We still reference back, but do you remember that time Mummy ran a marathon? I mean, what's the chances of that? You can do anything you put your mind to, Charlie or Daisy, because I did. And the other thing that I really learned about it, and what kept me hooked, really, and I say hooked, I don't do fitness challenges every year. I'm too busy running a business and bringing up children. But what happened in that time is I gradually started to realize that my Sunday mornings was such a respite from my head.
Yes.
So as I say, at some point when I can afford it, I'll go and get my ADHD diagnosis, but I didn't know that's what it was then. My head is busy. It's busy. I have a lot of, trauma in the past. It is always on. And in running, I got a respite from it. And it was a feeling that at that point, I'd only ever experienced in church, which is a strange parallel to draw, right? But I'm Catholic. So when you're go to mass, when you're little, it's a ritual and you have to pay attention. You're in trouble if you forget what bit you say when, right?
Catholic, I remember.
You remember. So you're on it, right? You're literally paying attention, because you've got to be on the right page. You've got to be saying the right response to this, that, and the other. And that was like from my early life, a time when I was drawn to going to church, not for being particularly religious, but for the respite of doing something that meant I had to concentrate on it properly. I couldn't wander off and think about anything else. I had to concentrate. And I'd only felt that peace there until I started running. When I started running, I could only think of breathe in for 3, breathe out for 3. How long distance is it that? What pace am I going at here? I could really, most of the time, I could just, am I still alive? Can I keep doing it?
Yeah.
And it was just amazing for my mental health. It was just, I'd never come across anything like it.
Yeah.
For just being able to have a break from the whirling dervish of my head. And so I grew in that. I was like, this has got to be a part of my life going forward. Because I recognized I needed that break. I never could see it before.
Well, I think one of the things with fitness is huge for people that are very busy, are busy in their heads, overwhelmed, anxiety, depression. We know that fitness helps. We know this is a part. It's not the cure, but it's definitely something. And it's like when people do cold water, you're the only thing you focus on is cold. You're not, everything else is out of your brain. And one of the things that I learned with running and doing some other things is fitness or a tough workout or lifting, whatever it was always the thing that brought me back down, rid of any kind of anxious energy that I had, which is just a nervousness. If I was overwhelmed, it took the energy out of that, so I was able to focus better. If I was having and this is one of the things that I've always said to clients: if you start your day off happy, it's going to win. And I like people go, well, I don't want to get up and I don't want to do this. Is the simplest approach to waking up happy is the first thing you do is stick on your headphones and play your favorite song, a song that you like to dance to. Like, I mean, don't stick on Radiohead. That day, if you start listening to Karma Police and stuff like that, if you stick on an upbeat song, doesn't matter. You're just going to start moving your body and feeling, and you can change your state. And I think fitness is the easy, low hanging fruit for people to get out of their head. Because when you're doing something that's uncomfortable, that really resets the system for you and gives you like that respite that you were mentioning. I think that's one of the biggest things, and people should do something, and it doesn't have to be hard every day, but something that literally requires their focus or requires a little bit of like a hard work where you just can't focus on anything else.
Yeah.
And you're in yourself because we're constantly bombarded with everything 24/7, and it's never ending. And if
it completely is. Back in those days, I had Charlie was at nursery. I had quite a full-on job at a law firm, full-time hours. We lived in a flat. We were on top of each other. The only space I got was getting out the house and going running for 5K around town. All times. I mean, we lived. I'm pointing this way because we just used to live over there. And we're just on the outskirts of Manchester city centre here. And so because we were on the outskirts, I could run at any time of night. I could go out at 8:30 at night and run through the shops or through the bars. I'd be safe because there were so many people about. I was really lucky with that. And I kind of kept that up and for a couple of months. And when I ran New York, I ran it with a guy called Duncan, and he was doing his 5th marathon. It was his last of 5 marathons in 6 months. And I was like, what? And he had a coach called Mark Laithwaite. He's a triathlon coach and big in, he runs an ultra marathon in the Lake District called Lakeland 50. And I went to this kind of celebration dinner for the end of Duncan's marathons. And I'd found out about my foot at this point. And I saw Laith, they call him Mark Laithwaite. And I said, I was in New York with Duncan. He said, how did you do? I said, I'm really disappointed. I trained all that time and I did 6.5 hours. He went, what? I said, well, I had a broken foot. He's like, what? Couldn't believe it. I said, yeah, but I don't think I'm very good at it. I don't think I'm very good at running. I don't think I'm going to run anymore. He said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, I tried it on my own. And I had the thing, and look how badly I did. And I was really down on myself. He went, right, Amy, I normally coach athletes. Like, I normally coach. This was before 2012, right? So it's like the end of 2009. He's like, I normally coach, Olympic athletes. He said, but I'm going to coach you because otherwise you're going to stop running. And I can't bear that because you're so down on yourself. He said, but part of the deal is you're going to have to go to a running club. I went, what now? What? He said, you're going to have to go to a running club. I'm going to pair you up with a girl I know called Sally. She's a coach at your local running club. It's just down the road. I want you to go there. Oh my God. I can tell you, I have never been so scared in my life. Once I've been that scared, and that was after that. When I had to appear at a select committee at Parliament on the telly for work. That was scary. But apart from that, I was terrified. I wanted to be sick. I'm like, I can't go and walk into a running club. I'm a complete imposter, and I'd gone back up to like 14 something at this point. I didn't look like a runner. I had all the gear and no idea really. And suddenly I'm at the track. I'd never been to a track since, well, I never ever. We had a effort at a track at high school, but not a proper athletics club.
Yeah.
What's all this stuff in the middle? What's that sand for? I'm like, I didn't know anything about it. And I went to this session. I thought I nearly died, honestly. The first session, they're like, right, we're going to go for a mile. We're going to run out for a mile and a half to where the session is tonight. It was on the road. And then it was the distance runners bit. Amy, I'll tell you where it is if you want to drive. So I drove there and then did this session. I wanted to throw up, honestly. Not just for the fear, but then for the effort of it. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. I really don't think I'd just run a marathon with a broken foot, but I can't do these interval sessions. I'm not going to be able to do it. Late's like, listen, we made a deal, Amy. I said I'd train you if you went. Yeah. So I went, and it was twice a week. And then I had a long run as training. And my aim was to get a 10K in under an hour, which seemed to me impossible to do. And they had me enter a race every 3 or 4 weeks, 10K, and then I had to go to this training thing. And in 5 months, and I sorted my nutrition out. Now, I say sorted my nutrition out. I didn't. I went to Weight Watchers. I was Weight Watchers Gold member. Obviously, hasn't worked long term, so I'm not getting into all of that. But right there and then, I was sticking to the plan. The Weight Watchers plan says I eat this, so that's what I'm going to eat. Lay's plan says I run this, so that's what I'm going to run. Down, I'll do it. And I lost 50 pounds and got my 5K, my 10K on the September, which was the end of the period, the coaching period, at 59:55. So I did it. And only then did I class myself as a runner. I wish I'd have embraced it earlier, but only then did I feel like a proper runner, because I'd got a time that I thought was respectable. And I'm like, oh, I'm a runner now because I'm under an hour 10K. I wouldn't have had it before then. I really regret that now because I can't.
I think a lot of people would say that, like they're not a runner and they just do it like it's a part-time gig, or they do A, B, and C and they don't focus. And they don't, like you said, it's more of I can't justify that I'm a runner because my running's not fast enough. Mm-hmm. And I would fall into that bracket on certain things as well. And again, as if you're doing the task, it doesn't matter. You are a runner, and then I think that's very important. When it comes to, are you an athlete runner? Like, are you competing level of what you do? No. If you're not doing that, then no. So it's like guys that would do CrossFit, and when CrossFit first came out, they always said, well, everyone's an athlete. And I was like, well, not really. Everyone does CrossFit. Athletes are the top tier because of the difference. And I think that goes for a lot of sports, but you're 100% a runner. Getting the score down or the time down is irrelevant, because like, you could go to a running club tomorrow and probably most of the people in the club have not run a marathon. They've done 5s and 10s and they've done half marathons, but they haven't done marathons. So technically your experience and knowledge on a marathon would be better than theirs because you physically experienced it with a broken foot. So you know how to,
No, in fairness, And I tell you, when I got there, obviously I got there then, I'm like, brilliant. And then predictably, you know, life got in the way, party. And then we got pregnant with Daisy. And again, I had the absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe a size 12, still in good shape. Was running in my first trimester with Daisy. And then I got into the, oh, look, I'm pregnant. Nobody's going to question what I look like. Nobody's going to question what I'm going to eat. And I went nuts again. Absolutely. How I didn't get, you know, diabetes or something is beyond me. I was like literally full boxes of Jaffa cakes. Daisy is still addicted to Jaffa cakes now. And I just piled it all on. And had Daisy, was absolutely devastated. I remember getting on the scales, you know, after about 3 months and going, oh my God, why have you done this to yourself again? Why have you done this to yourself again? You're going to have to start again. And I tried running and I bust my knee because I've been sat down for the whole of my pregnancy. And then suddenly trying to run.
I ask, when you went to run, did you try and do a couple of miles, or did you just start off gentle?
No, I did just start off gentle. I did just start off my normal 3 mile route, but just running and walking.
Okay,
I always, whenever I've not been doing it, I always go back to Couch to 5K, always.
Yeah. Okay.
And I always do that. And not long, so I did my knee. I didn't do my knee running. I actually did my knee, funny story, jumping on a road, trying to jump on a rodeo horse, as you do. You know, those things you have outside pubs sometimes?
Yeah.
So I'd been trying to run. Calves had got dead tight, glutes got dead tight. I hadn't really thought about it. I'd never stretched. I was a rubbish stretcher. And then we were at this weekend away and let's get on the ball. And I went to jump on the thing and my knee just popped, just absolutely popped, wrecked it. Which I now know. Now I learned more about how my leg worked. It was just the easiest point of failure. Everything else, it was too tight. So I was stuffed then for a little while. And then I got in the marathon ballot, the London Marathon ballot. Now, when I ran New York, I ran it for the NSPCC on a deal that if I raised enough money, they would refund the flight and the cost of the entry.
Yes.
Which is very common charity kind of deal. And so all my work was bombarded for a year with me fundraising to try and get this target. And we made the target and it was all good. And I had a friend who I'd worked with for years called Daniel, and he had cancer. And he used to have every Wednesday afternoon off to go to the local town that he lived in, to the cancer care place. And I said to him, you know what, Daniel, if I ever run a marathon again, I'll raise money for you guys. And he'd stopped working by the time I actually got in the ballot. I feel very lucky to have got in the ballot. It's really difficult to do. And I got in the ballot and I sent him a message and I said, hi, Daniel, remember 5 years ago when I told you if I ever got another marathon place, I'm going to raise money for you? He's like, yeah. I said, well, I've got one. So I'm off. I'm going to do it. And so send me the details and tell them I'm going to set up a Just Giving and that, and hope to see you. So I set us off again, Couch to 5K. Off we go, Couch to 10K, off we go. Didn't have enough time then to do a half marathon, just had to get on the all marathon plan. I gets on the marathon plan, starts marathon plan, and then Daniel dies around the winter, just before I'm going to do it. And suddenly it turned into something completely different. This wasn't about my challenge anymore.
Yeah. This
was about keeping a promise to somebody and trying to do as much good in his name as I possibly could. And so it was completely different than the first experience. First experience was, could I challenge myself to do this? It turned into, I'm still overweight.
More accountability. Sorry, but there's more accountability to do what you said you would.
Yes, absolutely. There was no way I was DNFing. There was no way. I got in touch with his wife. Now, Daniel was quite a dour kind of guy. He wouldn't mind me saying that. He was pretty serious looking most of the time. And I'd never met his wife, Justine. And I sent her a message. I said, Justine, I don't know if Daniel told you, but this is the thing. And I'm doing this. And I told him, and I just wanted to let you know, because I need to start the fundraising. I need to get the Just Giving out if we're going to raise some money. She messaged me straight back. She said, oh, Amy, I'm so glad you got in touch. I do know who you are. She said, Daniel actually smiled when he got your message because he never smiled, bless him. And so anyway, she shared it. We absolutely smashed the target. I didn't have to raise any money then. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
She shared it obviously with a lot of their community, and we raised, I don't know, 5,500 or something like that.
Brilliant.
And every mile when it got hard there, I didn't have a broken foot that time. Every mile when it got hard, I'm just like, I'm going to do it. And it just, is there looking down kind of thing. And I'm going to do it. And then I felt like a runner, because I had experience. It wasn't my first rodeo, knew what I was doing, could see what people were doing. Runners very generous people with their knowledge and could help people as I was going along. And if people were struggling, give them encouragement and stuff like that. And I did feel like a runner when I did that. It was amazing. So that was 5:34:19 or something. So
yeah.
Oh no, 5:51:13. And so a good bit of time off it. And then so that was amazing. And I thought I was a runner. And then 4 weeks later, I got plantar fasciitis for 3 years. 3 years. I tried everything. I tried weight loss. I tried podiatry clinics. I tried tennis balls. I tried supports in my feet. I tried socks that you wear to sleep. Absolutely everything. Every time I tried running, it came back. Every time I thought it was gone, it came back. And so that's the last time I ever did any running. So probably 2018, 19 was the last time I tried to run. The last time I tried a couch 5K. The plantar's stable so far at the moment, but I had to look for a new way to do mad fitness challenges and running. I do live in hope that one day I will find the right magical formula to get back to running, because the mental health break. I am actually just joined a new gym recently, which is a CrossFit style gym. I thought I'm going to try a completely different type of sport. I'm strong. If I'm anything, I'm strong. And, I am quite weak upper body, but I'm capable of great strength. My legs are incredibly strong. They've had to be to carry me all this time, right? So I'm good at that. So I've just started there, and I happily report that it gives me that hour following the program, the workout everyone's doing. It is so hard for me as well that it gives me what I was missing from running, which is the hour off.
Yeah. And that
time off.
Comes back to just having some sort of fitness. And I think for a lot of people, they think it's like, oh, the running's thing, maybe. And this is just kind of not wishy-washy, but from a different angle of maybe the running, you've done the running. Like the running thing that you've done, and you can do it. You did it on a broken foot. You went back and you trained again and you did it again. You are now probably you might find that your new gym is literally the new outlet. And I know from owning a gym is chasing numbers and workout times and run times. And that is amazing. It's amazing to do it and chasing numbers. I'm currently training for another event, but I want to go back and chase some numbers, and then I want to go back swimming, and I want to go back running, and I want to do all the different things, but different parts of my life. But that's the thing is I suppose the main thing, the main takeaway I'm getting from you is that if you find something that's giving you that time off from your head, then it doesn't matter what it is. You're feeling good doing it. And if you're with people, there's a good community, whether it's the running club or it's I like to train on my own, but I love to train with people too. Because when you have that community aspect, you're more accountable, you'll turn up more and you'll do more with it. And I think what you're doing now is probably the best course of action. It will help rebalance your musculature, which could help with the plantar fasciitis. I don't know, maybe not, we don't know. But if anything, it's going to show you, it's going to introduce you to a whole new realm of challenges, which I think is amazing.
definitely is. I work across the road from this gym. I've seen it. We've had an office here for 2 years. I kept seeing it, and I'm like, when I was like, I know I need to go in there, but I daren't. And
Yeah.
this is if any of your listeners, like me, struggle with the weight, going to the gym's really intimidating. Going to a gym where everyone is super fit is even more intimidating than just going to Pure Gym, right? Because Pure Gym, all sizes and shapes of people in Pure Gym, and there's like people like me, and there's people that are thin, and then there's the big boys in the big gym, right? Walk into a CrossFit gym, like the whole place is the big boys gym. Like there's there's some bikes and some rowing machines for the kind of cardio stuff, but it's literally a rack. I've never been in a weight rack before, never lifted the bars. I mean, I've got weights at home, like home ones, but actually lifting one of those bars on its own, I was like, oh my God, you've come into the big leagues now. And here's the thing, I was terrified. I had the same feeling my first session at that gym as I had the first session the running club. And what I found in that gym is the exact same thing I found in the running club. Everybody wants you to win. Everybody wants you to win. When I never felt like going into a public gym on my own and training as an overweight person with no confidence in what I was doing. I went into there, they saw me. I was seen. I was seen, and people could relate to how I was feeling and went out of the way to come over and say, well done, brilliant. Even when I cannot do burpees and I do the wrong thing, or I have to do, and the poor, the ones where you do I go, you go. So the person's waiting for you to finish. They don't mind pairing with me. They get a massive rest. They're very happy about that. I'm like, I'm so sorry it's taking ages. They're like, that's fine. Don't worry. And everybody's just been really, the community of it, I think, is really valuable. And I had started off running, just wanted to be on my own. I don't want anyone else to talk to me. I don't want anyone else to see me. I don't want anyone else to help me. And it was only when I went and embraced the community, I felt like I was doing the sport. I wasn't just playing at it anymore.
And see, for a lot of people, is like when you come in, and I've done this to people specifically, and then reminded them of their first day in the gym, and like a lot of people, they're in their late 40s or 50s, they're out of shape. I'll never be strong enough. The barbell's too heavy, just like what you were mentioning. And then 6 months from now, I'm showing a new person in the gym. I said, see that person there? That person is everything to me. And in 6 months from now, if you do the work, I'll be using you as the example of someone that because it's normal to feel nervous. It's normal to think everyone is so far down. They're super fit. They're super strong. They can do everything. But at the end of the day, I remember walking into my first CrossFit gym, and I got my ass handed to me because I walked in like, well, what's this? I can do this. And I got very humbled by people that I would have said I'm fitter than or I'm stronger than. They knew how to do it and I didn't. It's happened with weightlifting gyms. It's 100% happened in all running endeavors I've ever done. I'm more of a bulk pony runner. I don't run for speed. I don't run for distance either. It's not. There's no benefits in my running. It's just running. The same as swimming. And I think finding a group of people that only want to see you be successful. That's where people need to be. And I think a lot of people would consider gyms, like walking into those type of gyms, like you said, is intimidating. But you're always going to feel a little bit awkward and uncomfortable going in. But it's definitely worth it. So if you had to, I suppose you had to tell someone that was like listening is like, what would be the piece of advice that you'd give them about starting anything? And it doesn't matter what fitness it is, or it's a gym, or it's a running club, or it's a swim club, or it's a shake, like you did a Camino. Like, what would you say to them if they were going, like, kind of like you are, like, I don't know, this is for me, I'm able for this?
I completely. I would, and I have said this repeatedly since. First thing I always say to anyone, if I can do it, you can do it. I am the most unlikely marathon runner. I'm the most unlikely person to go and do the Camino, which we haven't got time to talk about, but 500 miles across Spain, most unlikely person to do that. Most unlikely person to walk into a CrossFit gym and go, come on, sign me up. I'm here for a year. What can we get done? If I could do it. And whatever you're scared of, like, I think Paul, who's kind of our coach, he has really helped me with this really simple concept that I see a lot of people saying things similar, but they don't hit like how he explains it. You are the star of your own movie and everybody else is an extra. So whoever you think is going to be looking at you when you go out and do these things, whoever you think is going to be judging you, they're not. They're busy judging themselves. Because they're the stars of their own movie. And that, when I walked into that gym, I had to literally have that. Because if you're there thinking I can't do it, I was only there in October, right? I was there in October, sat here going, oh God, I've got to do something. I can't run anymore. That's the only solution I've got. I'm going to have to find a new one. Right, I'm just going to sign up to that thing. They've got a month trial. I'm going to go to my first thing. I'm walking. I'm like this. I'm terrified at the thing. And someone came over and said, how's your day been? That was it. And then I'm like, I'm not sure what to do. Like, well, just do this. And the person, they pair you up a lot, don't they? Because to use equipment and get the rest and stuff. And just every single time I got paired up with someone, somebody would be patient, help me take the weights on and off to change, and just made it really easy for me because they could see and they know the joy of enjoying that, and they want to share it with you. So certainly if you're going into any kind of club environment, like the running was the same, they love it and they want you to love it too. They're going to be on your side. I have had, and I could still have, probably do still have, but I've got headphones on all the time, people saying things to me when I'm out and about and running and walking. So I was walking just the other week, actually, in the village I live in, and there was a gang of boys. We don't generally have gangs of teenage boys, but there was just some gang. They must have been on a day trip or something. But I could hear them saying something to me, and I'm kind of a size 20 now, about 17 stone. I put all the weight back on, really hoping that I can sort it out. And I knew they were saying something about me, and I knew that thing I'm scared of, they were saying something about. And I just thought, but I'm the one. I'm the one who's run 2 marathons. Come back when you've done it,
And like,
it doesn't hurt as much as you think it would.
It's like most people that say something have more problems
about themselves,
and it's a reflection of what they're not willing to admit to or do. And people, it's like you say, someone that's doing better than you will not pull you down. The only people that pull you down are people that are like not willing to do the work to be a better person. Exactly. And those people you do not want in your life. I spent years pulling people out of my life that I thought genuinely were going to be friends or we're going to help each other, we're going to do things together. And it doesn't work. I don't mind people not liking me. Whatever I do, they are not in my life. And I love that saying is that if you have a problem with me, ring me. If you don't have my number, you don't know me enough to have a problem with me. I love that saying. I love it. Because like people, we don't like this and we don't like that. I said, you don't know me to not like me.
Yeah.
And if you did know me and didn't like me, I'm okay with that, because you know what?
I wonder, I mean, obviously you and I have got, a similar experience in terms of the things that we've invested in, the things that we're showing up for and the messages that we're getting through that process. What I've learned as I've got older, and, I'm 48 now, so I'm not getting any younger. What I've learned is exactly as you're saying, people have got their own frame of reference. And I just made a decision one day to stop owning that. If somebody feels like that about me, then that's their problem. And I'm not owning it anymore. I'm not going to feel responsible for the way that they feel like that about me. I'm not perfect. I still worry, going off on a business trip soon to a place where people don't know me. I've got to, first impressions will have to matter. I'm like, oh my God, this is not the first impression I want to give of anyone, that I can't, stop binging on dairy milk. That's not the first impression I want to give anyone. But I'll put the show on, and I will get there. So I'm not completely immune to it. But I can't let it stop me doing stuff, because on the other side of pushing yourself through things that you are scared of is always better.
Yes.
Always better. I'm not saying we're always happy, but it's always better, because what you get from pushing yourself to do something you think you can't do is like confidence that you can't buy. It's very difficult to develop otherwise. Just coasting through life, you don't get that kind of confidence to know you can tackle anything.
Yeah.
And so just do it. Surround yourself with people that are on your side. Get rid of everyone that isn't. Try to stop caring what other people do. If you notice yourself doing that, which I do quite frequently, I stop and I really spend some time thinking about what's really going on here. What's really causing me to succumb to this?
Yes.
What is it? Has something happened? Am I tired? Am I ill? There's a load of other reasons for it that are nothing's really to do with the thing I'm worrying about.
Yeah.
It's something else. So if your confidence slips, don't just write it off. Spend some time thinking about it. And then my best advice is just to, as quickly as you possibly can, do something else that scares you.
Yeah.
Just get your confidence, build that confidence back up.
And I think that's more than enough for anyone to understand, is like, you just do you, be you, after your challenges, always be willing to grow. These are very important. And like, as you are in a CrossFit gym, there will be no doubt an in-house competition that you will sign up to. That will be your next big challenge.
We will see. I've got to get through the Friday workouts, which are 40 minutes of just like cardio circuit stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
You've ran a marathon or broken foot, you can do 40 minutes of cardiovascular work.
Yeah. Well, I don't actually think Sam knows that until he listens to this.
I hope he does.
But when he does, that's it. Game over.
No excuses. Well, Amy, I thoroughly enjoyed your story and having you on the show. I think it's a testament to you of everything you've kind of gone through and overcome, and even with your struggle with weight, because I know a lot of people, not only women but men, who struggle with their weight, and then it's like, do I have to start again? It's okay to start again. I think that is a big misunderstanding. People go, oh, I have to start again. I said, yeah, I've been on that journey where starting again after injury, and then, well, I have to go back. I have to start from scratch again. The only time you don't start again is when you're in a pine box.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're on a different journey. Guys, if you like the show, please leave a like and comment. If you have done a marathon on 2 broken feet, please leave a comment, because we need to know. And from me and from Amy, we will see you on the next show. The big thing I say is, you got to win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed to what you truly value.
No right way and there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler Podcast.